This week we are talking about security on the Camino. I don't mean security of your person, but security of your personal items. It's something that people do worry about. So I've got a few tips on that, and I'll share a couple of tips on personal security as well. So coming right up. So some people worry a little bit about security of their personal items, as well you should. So I'm going to run through a few tips on that, the sorts of things maybe that you should consider not carrying or carrying, how you might sort of take care of those items. And right at the end, I don't really want to make this about sort of physical security, but I'll mention a couple of things right at the end as well, which hopefully you'll find useful. So this is more about, you know, your precious stuff, your valuables, and how to look after them on the Camino. So let me start off by saying, oh, you've got to be careful saying stuff like this, but I was going to say, walking the Camino is like almost one of the safest places on earth, I think. But there are bad people everywhere. There are people who are down on their luck, who might seize an opportunity. You know, that's life, isn't it? So the general theme here is to be careful with your items, your valuables, and I'll explain what I mean by that as we go through. And I like to keep things simple, really simple. So what's probably the most valuable things that you'll have with you? I don't carry camera equipment. I'm carrying something on the next Camino. But generally what I would say is don't carry stuff that you can't afford to lose. So this is the same for any kind of trip, isn't it? You know, it's you're staying in so many different places, you're walking in an open countryside, you know, you're picnicking everywhere. It's going to be very easy to mislay things. I'm not necessarily talking about stuff getting stolen. You often read online about, oh, you know, I lost my favourite ring or my favourite watch. You know, why did you take it on the Camino? It's very easy to lose stuff. So this is not just about, you know, other people taking things. It's about losing stuff as well. So if you think about it, you know, I'm going to assume you're not carrying lots of cameras and stuff like that. What do you think is one of the most important things? Passport. What's one of the next most important things? Your money. Next most important. Oh, I've got it zipped up in here. Or one of the important. You know, your bank cards, things like that. Those are the things that we're going to talk about security for. And I'll mention a couple of ways that I access cash as well. So there's a few things to mention on this. So first of all, how do I carry things like passports and my pilgrim credential, my pilgrim passport? These items, so my national passport, my pilgrim passport, my money, my ATM cards, never leave my person. Okay? They never leave my person. Never. So what does that actually mean? I'll talk about sort of staying at albergues and things like that. So if I'm going to the shower in the albergue, all of this comes with me. If I'm stopping at a cafe, you know, along the way, and I'm dropping my pack off, all of this is on my body, not in my pack. You get the idea? This never leaves you. If I'm sleeping in an albergue, it's a little bit easier in private accommodation, of course. If I'm sleeping in an albergue, this stuff is going to go into a little pouch inside my sleeping bag. Getting the message? This never leaves your body. So how do you carry it next to your body? There's a few different ways of doing it. Personally, I like these little sort of neck wallet things. Don't go ringing that number. It's an old one from years ago. It's an old Spanish number. But it's fabric, it's nice and soft, goes around your neck. I can very easily put my pilgrim's passport, my national passport, my cards, all of that kind of stuff in it. And it doesn't kind of bulge out too much. It can hang around my neck, and it's around my neck most of the time. Other people like to use sort of similar things, but as a waist belt. Personally, I don't like those. I find them a bit uncomfortable. I prefer something around the neck. One thing I will mention, so I'm going to digress quite a few times here, as I always do. If you've got stuff in a neck wallet, in a waist wallet or something like that, you know, and you're paying for a coffee, you do not want to be accessing this in a cafe. So it's like, you know, Travellers Abroad 101. Don't show people where your money is. So how do I get around that? I have my ready-use wallet. It's literally a little plastic bag. I've probably got 20 or 30 euros in there, a couple of coins. That just goes in my pocket. So if there's enough in there to sort of buy lunch, coffees, things like that, I never have to dig into this and risk people seeing where it is. Let's put this into context. 99.9% of the people around you are fine. But we're just protecting against that tiny fraction, someone who's been opportunistic or whatever. Oh, I can see that they've got a waist pack or a neck wallet. Don't show people where it is. So think about things like that as well when you're going to an ATM. Have your ATM card ready. Have your little baggie ready. Do everything at the ATM without using this. Put your money away and stuff in private back into this. Just a bit of amusement. I started carrying stuff like this just in a little plastic bag. It's just for convenience and it's lightweight. I thought about using a little wallet, so I bought Pat and I one of these things. I think they're supposed to be RF shielded. You can put a couple of cards in there. It's got a couple of straps to use in whatever way. But do I really want that? It's hard. It weighs a lot more than a little plastic bag, and the plastic bag works. So I don't think I'll bother with that. I'll stick with a plastic bag. Now, expert tip. One problem with the little plastic bag wallets, what do you reckon that is? With the money and things like that in it and the coins, you can get little holes in it. Ta-da! Mark II. I found that on my first Camino. I just put some of this medical tape around the plastic bag and it'll last 2 months on a Camino. This one's a little bit big. If I was using this bag, I'd just fold it up, stick it in my pocket. But you get the idea. So keep things simple. Think about security, using ATMs, certainly not leaving your passport or credential around. I'm amazed when I read online, like people say, oh, I've left my credential behind. Well, I don't know how you could do that. It's on you all the time. You're stamping it, you're putting it away. I know I just said don't expose where all your stuff is, but put it away sort of as soon as you can. The other small tip on carrying your passport in some sort of soft wallet like this, which I found on my first Camino, is these get wet. Simple answer, put them in a plastic bag. Little Ziploc bags are great for everything. And funnily enough, it wasn't getting wet from rain, it was getting wet from my body sweat. So easy, plastic bag, simple solutions. So we've talked about security of our money, passport, stuff like that. I mentioned, when you're going to the shower and things like that, take all of your valuables with you. So how do you do that? A fairly common way of doing it is you've probably got dry sacks like this that you're packing your clothes in. This one's a little bit big. But I have a dry sack like this that I use when I'm going to the shower with my clean clothes in it. So imagine I've just finished walking, I've found my bed for the night. I'm going to go to, this is in communal dorms again, okay? So I'm going to the shower. I'm going to put in my clean underwear and shirt and stuff in this, go into the shower, have my shower. The dirty stuff comes out with me in this, So again, to sort of touch on modesty in albergues and things, there's none of this walking around naked or anything. But I might have a smaller one of these to put my valuables in. So I'm going to put my little neck wallet in there, because even when I go to the shower, they stay with me. What else is going to go in there? Where's it gone? I've lost my phone. So, yeah, whatever, my neck wallet, my phone, it's all going to go in there. And what do you do with it in the shower? You hang it up. Tiny little stainless steel S-hook. Sorry if there's a noise in the background. My cat has decided to exit the studio. See you later, Tiger. You can just hang it up on the shower room door or whatever. So you've got all your stuff with you all the time. Likewise, if you were going out for a little bit of shopping, a little bit of walking around, sightseeing, and you wanted to carry a little bit more with you, you don't want to carry your backpack. We always carry one of these tiny little sort of ultra sil backpacks. They weigh about 25 grams, I think, like 15, 20 litre capacity. So you can put your wet weather clothing and stuff in that. I wouldn't be putting my wallet and things in there, but you know, just another means of carrying things securely when you're out and about. So there we go. Key messages are: make sure that you have your valuables, your passport, your pilgrim credential, your ATM cards, you know, your cash on you, on your body at all times. Just play it safe. And also don't unnecessarily display the fact, you know, where you're actually stashing all of that stuff. So don't be, you know, digging into your neck wallet every 2 minutes, you know. Have your little pocket stash that you can just pull out. So those are sort of a couple of key things that I've learned along the way. Now I wanted to mention a couple of other things about broader security issues, and I'm looking for my phone. What have I done with it, Rob? I'm losing my brain. Oh, it's over here. Just looking at my phone. So a couple of things on personal security. And again, look, you know, the Camino routes are very, very safe. I don't know anybody who's had personal security issues. I tell a lie, I know one. I interviewed on the channel. It's extremely rare. But in terms of personal security, the one thing I just wanted to highlight was to put on your phone alert cops. Let me just find it on my phone. Alert cops. It's probably not going to show up on the camera. But I'll put a link down below and we'll see if we can have a quick look at it on here. It's asking to share my location. I'm not going to put that up because it's showing my house. But I'll put a link down below to show where you can download Alert Cops. It's a really great app. If you've got any sort of a problem, you can pull that out, you know, hit the sort of panic button. You're going to get put through to, I think it's the, you know, National Police. There's going to be someone who can speak English on the end of the phone. You know, you'll get help. There's all sorts of interesting sort of applications on there. You know, if you're lost, emergencies, all that kind of stuff. So most people who sort of are into the Camino and have walked a few Caminos would be carrying Alert Cops on their phone. The other thing, and I didn't want to get into sort of personal security too much on this video, but I do appreciate that people walking on their own, and women walking on their own particularly, may have some degree of nervousness about sort of personal security. So I'll just draw your attention to a couple of other videos. I'll put the links down in the description below. I did a video myself on sort of concerns, and it was more about things that guys can do to help women be more at ease, sort of who are walking on their own on Camino. That got a mixed reaction. You can have a look at that one. And then I did an interview a few years ago with Sarah Duma, who's walked loads of Caminos, and I wanted to get Sarah's view on walking alone as a woman, so she shares some really good tips as well. So I'll put those links down below. But I just wanted to talk about, you know, security of personal items. Just to recap, keep everything on your body. Particularly, you know, this is more if you're in albergues, in communal areas. You know, keep all your stuff in a little wallet. When you go to sleep at night, stick that in your sleeping bag, under your pillow, whatever. Never let it out of your sight. You know, you'll be fine. You won't have a problem. Just before we go, I will mention, and again, I don't want to sort of make anyone nervous, but there are scammers on the Camino. You're probably not going to come across any. I've heard of a couple this year, for example. And typically what will happen is that somebody who's sort of looks a bit like a pilgrim, might be staying in the albergue, tells you a bit of a hard luck story. You know, they've lost their wallet, you know, the money hasn't come through into their bank or whatever. You know, could you loan them 50 euros? You know, give me your bank details and I'll make sure I pay you back. There was a couple of people, I think this year, basically just making a living walking the Camino doing that. Pilgrims were reporting them. I think one was arrested in just outside Ponferrada, sort of earlier this year. Very rare. I've never come across it. I don't know anybody who's come across it. This is just, you know, a couple of things that I've read about online. So just be aware of those sorts of things in terms of security of your cash and stuff like that as well. There's an argument, I guess, that says look, if someone's desperate, you know, help them out. I've helped out people on Camino, okay? You know, you kind of learn to judge if someone's genuine or not. And if you judged it wrong and you're 50 euros out, well so what? But I just kind of mentioned that to complete the sort of picture of security of cash and stuff like that. So there we go. I've rabbited on. I can tell I'm repeating myself. Thanks for watching. If you didn't see the last video, actually, that was an interview with Johnny Walker Santiago, I'll put the link down below as well. I love talking to Johnny, and it seemed to be a popular video. So I hate for you to miss out on that one. See you again soon. Bye for now.